A fan doesn't cool the air, it cools you. When you turn on a fan in a hot room, the temperature of that room does not drop by a single degree. The fan moves air across your skin, speeding up sweat evaporation. Evaporation is a cooling process. When liquid turns to gas, it pulls heat away from your skin. That's the entire mechanism. The fan is 100% dependent on your body producing sweat and the surrounding air being dry enough to absorb it. The moment either condition fails, age, dehydration, humidity, medication, the fan loses its only function. It becomes just a machine blowing hot air. And hot air moving across your skin faster is not neutral. It is actively harmful. There is a precise temperature where a fan switches from saving your life to ending it. Your skin surface sits at roughly 35 degrees Celsius. Below that ambient air temperature, heat flows naturally from your warmer skin outward into cooler surrounding air. A fan accelerates this process. You feel relief, the system works. But the moment air temperature exceeds your skin temperature, the direction of heat flow completely reverses. Now heat flows from the hot air into your skin. The fan, by blowing more hot air across your skin at higher velocity, accelerates heat gain into your body instead of out of it. Same blades, same electricity, same sound, same feeling of airflow on your face. Completely opposite biological outcome. The switch flips silently at one specific threshold with no warning, no alarm, and no change in the sensation of the breeze against your skin. Research confirmed that fans accelerate sweat losses by approximately 60% compared to sitting in still air at the same temperature. Nearly double the fluid loss rate. A person sitting in front of a fan during a heat wave, not drinking consistently, is draining their body's water reserves at a rate they have no way of feeling in real time. Thirst is a late-stage dehydration signal. So, by the time your brain triggers strong thirst, meaningful physiological damage is already occurring. As dehydration progresses, sweat rate drops because the body rations remaining water. As sweat drops, evaporation drops. As evaporation drops, the fan's cooling effect disappears. While above 35 degrees Celsius, its heat-gaining effect remains at full force. Studies showed fan use when already dehydrated worsens cardiovascular strain and provides no comfort improvement. Heart rate climbs, core temperature rises. And the person sits there, feeling the breeze, completely unaware the device they trust is accelerating their collapse. Ask anyone what makes a heat wave deadly and they say temperature. But temperature alone tells you almost nothing about human survivability. What actually matters is wet bulb temperature, a combined measurement of heat and humidity reflecting what the body truly experiences. Sweat only cools you when it evaporates. Evaporation requires surrounding air to have remaining capacity to absorb moisture. When humidity is high, the air is already saturated. Sweat cannot transfer into it. It beads on your skin, it drips off. It does nothing. A fan in this environment blows warm, saturated air across skin covered in useless sweat. The cooling mechanism is entirely broken. A 2022 study found severe heat stress occurs at wet bulb temperatures as low as 31.5 degrees Celsius, even in healthy young adults under minimal physical activity, far below the widely cited 35 degrees Celsius threshold most health agencies use. In real humid conditions, people reach dangerous physiological stress at temperatures official guidance still considers manageable. Their fans keep spinning. They keep sitting there, thinking they are fine. August 2003, Europe's hottest summer in 500 years. Over 70,000 dead across the continent, more than 14,000 in France alone in a matter of weeks. The detail almost never mentioned. The victims were not who most people imagine. Not the bedridden, not the obviously critically ill. The group dying at the highest rates were elderly people not requiring constant medical care. Independent, functioning people who lived alone and managed their own daily lives.
They woke up, felt the heat, turned on their fan, and believed they were handling it. People with family nearby survived at higher rates, not because their fans were better, but because someone noticed when they became confused, when they stopped answering calls, when something seemed wrong. The isolated elderly had no such observer. They had a fan. The air was moving. That was enough reassurance that they never reached out. 88% of heat deaths were elderly people dying alone in private homes. The fan was not incidental to their deaths. It was the reason they never asked for help. The vulnerability of elderly people to heat is widely acknowledged. The specific mechanism that makes a fan actively harmful for them, not just less effective but harmful, is almost never explained. Older adults sweat approximately 25% less than young adults. Less sweat means less evaporation. Less evaporation means the fan's cooling mechanism runs at reduced capacity. But the convective heat gain from hot air being blown against the skin remains exactly the same regardless of age. Same air temperature, same fan speed, same volume of hot air hitting skin per second. So above 35 degrees Celsius, the balance becomes deeply uneven. Full heat input from convection, significantly reduced cooling from evaporation. Research testing elderly volunteers in simulated heatwave conditions confirmed it directly. Fan use accelerated increases in core body temperature and heart rate in older adults. The fan made them hotter faster, not cooler. And throughout the entire process, the person feels the breeze on their face, has no signal that the familiar device doing its familiar job is now working entirely against them. Anticholinergic medications treat urinary incontinence, overactive bladder, allergies, Parkinson's disease, depression, and motion sickness. They are among the most commonly prescribed drugs for elderly populations. Approximately 12% of geriatric patients are on them at any given time. One of their primary mechanisms is blocking nerve signals that trigger sweat glands. Anticholinergic drugs reduce sweating capacity by an additional 25% beyond the age-related reduction already present in older adults. The compounding math is alarming. Elderly person, already 25% less sweat than a young adult. Add the medication, another 25% reduction in remaining capacity. Now place that person in front of a fan above 35 degrees Celsius. Full convective heat gained from hot surrounding air. Almost no evaporative response remaining to counteract it. Core temperature climbs, heart rate climbs, and the person sits there, taking their prescribed medication exactly as directed, feeling the breeze, with no indication from their doctor, pharmacist, medication label, or the fan itself that this specific combination has created conditions their body cannot survive. This is not a future scenario, not a 2050 projection, it is happening now. Researchers have documented over 1,000 instances of wet bulb temperatures exceeding 31 degrees Celsius globally, and over a dozen cases where wet bulb temperatures briefly cross 35 degrees Celsius, the threshold beyond which human survival becomes physically impossible regardless of any non-mechanical intervention, recorded in Pakistan, India, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Australia. At 35 degrees Celsius wet bulb, the laws of thermodynamics prevent the body from cooling. Sweat cannot evaporate because the air is already fully saturated. A fan cannot change air saturation. A fan cannot alter thermodynamic laws. A perfectly healthy, well-hydrated young adult sitting naked in the shade with a fan at maximum speed will experience rising core temperature that becomes fatal. No fan is powerful enough to overcome this. A 2024 Arizona State University study found that existing scientific methodology for measuring dangerous heat significantly underestimates mortality, meaning we have been telling people conditions are survivable when the evidence says otherwise. They believed their fans, they stayed home, they did not call for help. This does not come from a single controlled study. It emerges from the pattern across every heat wave post-mortem, every analysis of who died and who survived and what the primary difference was. Survivors were disproportionately people who had someone checking on them, family, neighbors, social workers, a phone call, a knock on the door. The people who died were disproportionately isolated, and isolated people with fans made a quiet judgment call. They felt the airflow. They registered that they had taken action. They did not reach out. The sensation of air moving across your skin is physiologically identical whether the fan is helping or harming you. Your nerve endings detect airflow, not the net direction of heat transfer. The breeze feels the same. The sensation of cooling feels real. The feeling of being in control feels completely warranted. And that feeling, that specific, convincing, entirely misleading sense of having handled the situation, may be responsible for more heat deaths than any other single factor in this entire story. And that feeling, that specific, convincing, entirely misleading sense of having handled the situation, may be responsible for more heat deaths than any other single factor in this entire story. Fans are not inherently dangerous. They are dangerous when used in the one specific way almost everyone uses them, alone, in hot air, without water on the skin. The correct use of a fan in extreme heat requires one additional element that costs almost nothing and takes 3 seconds. Water on your skin, not to drink, sprayed or applied directly to your skin surface before the fan blows across it. When you wet your skin and direct a fan at it, you manually supply the evaporative mechanism your sweat glands may be struggling to maintain. The fan's only job has always been to accelerate evaporation, give it water to evaporate, and it works, even when your body cannot produce enough sweat on its own. Research confirmed that fan use combined with skin wetting maintains meaningful cooling even in conditions where fan use alone makes things significantly worse. A spray bottle costs almost nothing. The action takes seconds. The physics are unambiguous. And in over a century of electric fan manufacturing, in every heatwave warning and summer safety guide ever published, almost no one has ever told the public this. The fan was never designed to work alone. We just never mentioned that.